Okay guys, here's my updated information on when we're going to get back into our cryptocurrencies. So let's just get into it here. So right here, forget about that. I'm using this weird drawing tool, so bear with me. So right here is where we have the most powerful bullish bounce off point for Bitcoin. This yellow line down here. You haven't heard from me in a while because I basically told you that we're waiting for the whoopsie daisy to complete. Whoopsie daisy is my invention, right? And we're still in the process of that. Bitcoin currently is touching 3 spots right up here. I believe that it's about to go into the downside of the whoopsie daisy, and so if I had anything in the market now, which I don't, I would get out of the market because, as I said, I think that Bitcoin is about to complete the whoopsie daisy and go down and then hopefully bounce off of this line. So basically my plan is that when Bitcoin does get down to this rising line, so it's hard to tell you what the price will be, but when it gets down to this rising line, basically I will be buying all of my cryptos at the exact same moment when that occurs, and I'll try to let you guys know when I'm going to do that. So let's see here. So that's where Bitcoin is, and that's the plan. Now let's look at a little bit of why and what's going on. So right here we have Dogecoin. Dogecoin is currently bouncing off of its powerful bullish line. And this is what got me interested in looking into the situation now. And this is what got me a little stressed out because my whoopsie daisy on Bitcoin has not completed yet. I'm getting, and by the way, this Dogecoin right here, it basically represents all of your cryptos, When Dogecoin actually bounces upward is pretty much when all of them are probably going to bounce upward. And so that's what concerned me, is why is this here, which is on the powerful bullish line, when my whoopsie days had not completed. And so that had me a little stressed out, and I'll tell you in a second why the S&P 500 helped me to feel better about what I'm doing. But it looks like the S&P 500 as well as Bitcoin are both going to be going down. And while they're crashing downward, it's very unlikely that this bounce off here that I would normally expect is going to occur easily. So what's going to happen during that time? Well, you know, it could just jag it around a little bit, go a little lower before taking off. Could be something that looks like that. And just think of Dogecoin as representing when all of our coins can blast. But I'm going to be using, as I said, Bitcoin to represent when I'm going to buy all my cryptos. But the fact that this came touching that line is why I'm making the video, why I got interested, why I got stressed out that I might be missing this bouncing point where all the altcoins can take off, because that is a possibility. And you know, so some people might be buying in now just because of this kind of thing. Of course, they don't have my super indicator, but this right here is from my super indicator. Let's continue and see what else we're looking at here. Here, to back up what I just told you about the last chart, this is total market cap, and total market cap represents all the cryptos except for Bitcoin and Ethereum, so all the smaller ones. And it also is reaching this line where I would expect things to bounce off. Okay, but and that's what got me stressed out. But I'm thinking with the other things that I think will be dropping, that maybe this will go down a little further, whatever. And so maybe I would buy when it's down below, more similar to this moment here. But once again, we're going to go by what Bitcoin does. That's our little ace in the hole. So this supports what I just showed you on the other chart. Oops. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. This is what gave me a little more confidence that I think my oopsie daisy is going to take place. Because basically the S&P 500 is doing this fascinating little giant rise at the very end of what looks like could be this little cycle. And so it's doing this giant little rise, but it's doing it to a line in one of my super indicators. This whole thing basically dropped down way down here, went all the way almost back up to it. Well, it did go back up. It's actually higher than the previous price levels. But on my super indicator, it's touching this line. That's a number one thought that why it might reverse. The number two thought of why it might reverse is because of this powerful jump up. Powerful jump ups like this often happen before the next phase of dropping happens. Why is this important? Because if S&P and Bitcoin fall at the same time, then they're going to push all the altcoins down toward a little deep into that bouncing line I was telling you about. And so that's part of the story we're looking at. That's kind of a confirmation of that. And also we're just seeing interesting things. XRP, I think, is going to be a good coin that may be working on, bouncing off this line. Here is XRP's kind of powerful bullish line. Even though XRP bounced around, well, you know, the next bounce, whenever this time happens, whenever Bitcoin hits my level and I buy, who knows what XRP will be doing. Maybe it'll go deeper or something like that, and that's when we'll buy, but it looks good. This is the kind of move that tends to occur, is that if XRP gets up here, it may be ready to form a bounce up to a new level. That's why I like XRP. So we talked about Total, we talked about Dogecoin, we showed you Bitcoin. Right here, these, now listen, everything we're talking about here is meant for us to get into the best quality cryptos, because we're already fighting against danger by getting into the market in case we're wrong. So for that reason, we want to get into the healthiest looking cryptos. I have methodologies that help me to find the strongest cryptos, and that's why I pick these cryptos, okay? And like I said, every one of them I'll get in at the moment I shared with you. And when that happens, I'll be sharing with a couple of people here when I'm going to be getting in. But if I don't do that, then at least keep an eye on when this comes down. Like I said, when it comes down, when it comes down on its own to that level, that's when I'll be buying everything, right? So since you don't have this line here, right? Well, maybe it'll happen around this 87,000 mark, or a little higher than that. It just depends on where it lands along my rising line, okay? So here are what I consider to be the healthiest coins. Aave is looking good. Aave does look like it has some room to drop down and rise into its next phase. So Aave is a strong contender. It's kind of a safe and healthy contender. That would be one of the safest to get into. Curve is this blue one here. By the way, Aave is this, as you see the color here, that's the color of the line that would represent that. Okay, so that's Aave. Aave is doing this move here, maybe lower than up, Aave is one of our safest bets, I would say. Now curve is the green color. Curve currently has this big motion here, but it also has a chart that shows it's climbing, and hopefully it's gonna, it's actually bouncing off a location at the big chart when I looked at that, where it's kind of trying to climb, right? Climbing, and it's climbing and touching a powerful bullish point. But it is a little more scary, because will it fail climbing and take longer to get up there? But on the other hand, if this is a climbing point, then curve could really do some fascinating, powerful rising in a new bullish phase. So curve is very interesting because of that possibility. It could have a rising type of experience similar to what XRP did a while back. That's why curve is exciting for that reason. Aave is a little safer, but curve has that more, maybe that faster potential, stuff like that. Dogecoin, I just showed you, Dogecoin is the yellow part here. Dogecoin is actually very close to, I just showed you that, close to a bounce off point. So Dogecoin looks healthy. Dogecoin looks at a healthy place, ready to bounce up. So I would consider Dogecoin to be another healthy coin like Aave, right? Another healthy coin. XRP, I already showed you that it is bouncing off a location that looks like it could go further and go up. So that's the red right there. Now let's talk about Pepe. Pepe is the one to gamble on. If you're gonna take a gamble, because if we're wrong, Pepe is an emotional coin, yet Pepe is, from my study, Pepe is one of the most healthy moving of all the big movers. So like, for example, if I didn't want to put a lot of money in the market and I was willing to lose everything, let's say, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I want to just make a bet, I would make my bet on Pepe. I'd take an amount of money I'm willing to lose and bet on Pepe when it's time to buy into this next upward move. That would be a great gamble coin, because if the bullish phase of cryptocurrencies does begin, and by the way, the Bitcoin dominance is at a peak right now. When Bitcoin dominance gets at a peak and starts to fall, that is often when alt season begins. Another reason why we could be moving into this alt season, so to speak. But the thing exciting about Pepe is it's an emotional coin, follows emotion. So when people get scared, it gets hurt. It gets hurt pretty badly. That's why I say you can lose money you put into it. But guess what? If our timing is correct and we get another bullish phase, then Pepe can do some incredible rising. Incredible rising. It's a beautiful, educated gamble coin, right? So we've talked about Aave as kind of a safety thing. Dogecoin could be a safety thing. If we go down though, we lose money on all of them. And if we do end up going down on Bitcoin, going lower than, whoops, there we go again, going lower than our little thing here, then what we do there is we have what's called an exit strategy. Now, for those of you who are listening to me, if you end up entering when I tell you to enter, maybe you shouldn't even do it if you're not going to listen to my exit strategies. Because here's the deal, trading is difficult. Exit strategies are part of trading. Exit strategy would simply mean that we've indicated we may be wrong, okay? If we indicate we may be wrong, then what could happen is the power line here, we could drop too far below the power line. And what usually will occur if that happens is usually we will get a chance to escape at some point, because it usually won't want to hit the power line before dropping further. And so if it goes beyond the power line, which means all of our cryptocurrencies that we invested in are gonna lose money. And that's why we're trying to invest in the best coins. And so if that happens, then I'm going to have to make my exit strategy, and I will let you know what that is. And that'll be that if things crash too hard, as I'm pointing out here, too hard, then I'm going to be working out my exit strategy, letting you know when it gets to that point where it touches our yellow line again before going down, we will exit there. That's our exit strategy if our whole plan fails. And I'll be letting you know how we're going to exit in that case. Now, even though we're exiting here, which is higher than this entry point, it doesn't mean we're going to be profitable on all our coins, because our various altcoins, our various crypto coins, especially if you don't pick high quality ones, can still be at a loss, but we're going to minimize the loss by an exit strategy. And like I said, for those of you who just want to get in and leave it in, you need to understand we are late. We're late in a bull market. Late in a bull market. We are hoping that we have at least one more, after the whoopsie daisy, at least one more up movement, because we're late in the bull market. Many times at this phase of a bull market, it's time to end. It's time to be destroyed, okay? So we're not early in the market. If we were early in the market back here, our confidence would be through the roof. But we are late in the bull market, right? But even with that said, I have all my indicators telling me that there's a good chance we can continue the bull market. But if we continue the bull market, it may actually happen by going down, and then rising. But so in that case, we'll have to make the exit strategy to get out here, and then in the future, I'll have to let you know the next moment we'll get back in.